Our guest tonight is the psychic lawyer, Mark Anthony. He was on, Mark, I think it was about a year ago when you were on, and time just flies.
It's amazing, isn't it? We get so busy, because I remember being on the show and really enjoying working with both of you.
Well, it was an honor to. It's an honor to have. It was then, and then now. And thank you so much for coming back on. I've got a question. We got several questions emailed into you, and I tried to combine them. And what when we talk about spirits and spiritual energy and all this, what's your take on extraterrestrials? Do you go down that road? I mean, there's some people that feel that maybe it's all kind of tied together through energy and dimensions. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it would be incredibly narcissistic and egotistical to think that we are, number one, the supreme pinnacle of intelligence in the universe, and number two, the only form of life in the universe. I mean, look at what we know, which is basically how much we don't know. We're in a solar system. There's millions of solar systems in our galaxy, and there are untold galaxies external to our own. And when you look at, and I live near the Space Center in Florida, what used to be the Space Center until the current administration decided to destroy the U.S. space program. No bitterness there. And Russians are taking our astronauts up to the International Space Station. Yeah, let's hear one for the U.S. And here's what's even better, before I get into that. A privatized company, and I have no problem with privatizing satellites, is announcing that by 2015 we may have a capsule which can take U.S. astronauts to the space station. And they're all excited. It's like, wow, that's something we did back in 1962. It's like not understanding. But the fact is, we are not alone in the universe. There are other intelligences out there. Now, are they all tied in together? It's possible, because everything in the universe is energy, and we're all energetically connected. And I always wonder, like, well, why would they be interested in us? If something is able to transcend the type of distances between stars, and Einstein theorized that nothing could go faster than the speed of light, and he may have been right about that, maybe not. Mm-hmm. Why would they want to have anything to do with us? We're a violent species. Mm-hmm. We're polluting and destroying our planet. We war among ourselves. It would be, maybe they might look at us with as much interest as we might observe ants. Ants are very organized. They build things, they retrieve things, and they make war upon other types of ants and other types of insects. But do you really want to put your foot in it? Mm-mm. Okay? And, and maybe they would be benevolent, and maybe they wouldn't. And maybe, and I have a lot of friends in the paranormal field that feel that maybe extraterrestrials are already here and they're walking amongst us. I did a show the other night on Darkness Radio out of Minneapolis, where the guest before me, and they had me come and comment that maybe Jesus was an astronaut. And somebody, I guess they wrote a book where Jesus is this alien-human hybrid. And the thing is, on one hand, you can say, well, that's crazy. But on the other hand, who are we to pass judgment on anything like that?
Right.
So I've always believed in extraterrestrials. And a couple of years ago, Pope Benedict issued an edict that it is okay for Catholics to believe in extraterrestrial life. Now, I found that very, very interesting, because the Vatican has been a continuous organization since the Roman Empire. Okay, so in Western civilization, if there's one continuous organization and data and library repository, it has been the Catholic Church. And they may know something that we don't. A lot of the popular Catholic saints, if you study them and their behavior and what they were capable of, would in today's terms be called psychics, mediums and channelers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that in the medieval era and in the ancient era, if you joined the clergy and you had these abilities, you were receiving visions of the Holy Spirit. If you walked around medieval Spain or England or Germany and said, I see dead people, you got burned at the stake for being a witch.
Right.
So, there's a lot more there, than we know.
Definitely.
Do you ever, maybe this is a crazy question, but do you ever experiment with your abilities, Mark? I mean, do you ever, of course you help people, like Linda called and Arlene called and all your clients. Do you ever try to connect with people just for, I don't want to call it for your own enjoyment, but because of your own interest? Do you ever kind of use your abilities for just to find out, just because you can?
What I do a lot of times is I meditate and I open up and I will receive information that really surprises me, and especially about reincarnation. Because there's certain spirits that I'm that I recognize. They'll talk to me and I said, "Well, what about reincarnation?" And they're like, "Well, what about it? It happens." And the interesting thing is, I was talking to one of my colleagues, Dr. Kenneth Ring. He's an associate of Dr. Raymond Moody, who started near-death experience research back in the 70s. And Ken Ring was telling me that pretty much every one of the subjects of near-death experience, and for the benefit of the listeners, near-death experience means that somebody dies and their consciousness leaves their body. They cross over, they go into the light. Generally, they encounter loved ones whom they know who have passed, and they may encounter what is considered to be God, and then they come back because they're resuscitated or whatever means to bring them back physically to life. And all of those near-death experience people say reincarnation exists too. So it was fascinating the way reincarnation was explained to me, and a lot of it is that many of our notions in traditional religions, and I don't mean to offend anybody's belief system, okay? This is what I have been, my experience is, and if your experience is different, then I honor and respect that. But a lot of our traditional understanding of, well, you die and then it's either heaven or hell, okay, is essentially not true. There are levels to the other side, and no one is condemned for an eternity. And a lot of people say, well, that's terrible. It's like, well, is it? Or is God a loving parent that gives us multiple chances to get it right? And let me tell you something. Hell is here on earth. If you don't believe me, then when one of your loved ones dies, tell me whether or not you're in hell. What about the people in Syria that are getting gassed and shot at by their own government, and the innocent people caught in the crossfire? What about starving children in Bangladesh who are riddled with diseases?
Right.
Hell is here on earth. The other side, when you're in a purely energetic state, you're devoid of sickness, old age, aging in general, and the pain and agony that comes with the material world existence. And that's why people come into this life, because they can experience things that you cannot when you're in an infinite, purely energetic state. So when I meditate and when I connect and use my ability to connect with the higher intelligence, it's really quite astounding, the things that they'll share, or rather the things that I'm capable of comprehending, because a lot of it is beyond a finite human brain's ability to comprehend.
Right. Have you ever? I don't know if I asked you this the last time you were on the program. Did you ever have an opportunity to read Dr. Mary Neal's book? She is a surgeon, a spine surgeon in Wyoming. And she, just long story short, her and her husband are avid kayakers, and every year they go down to I'm going to say South America. I don't know exactly where, But they go down and they do some extreme kayaking. I mean, these are the folks that, they go down and they're jumping off the 10-foot rocks and going down these rivers. And anyway, long story short, what happened is on the last day of her trip, she and her husband got up early. They had to catch the plane at 4 o'clock. And she's like, look, we're down here. We're going to get one more river run in, pack up, and then get to the airport. And her husband of 30-some years got up and said, my back is killing me. Now, she's a spine surgeon. She said, my back is killing me. I just can't get up. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be uncomfortable for the plane flight. And she said, hey, I love you, but I'm going to go. Well, anyway, she went on this run with they have guides, river guides, took the run, went down some small little path of patch of water, jumped down about a 5 or 6 foot embankment, in the canoe, kind of flipped down. Canoe went straight down in the water, held her under the water for 7 or 8 minutes. Obviously, she ingested the water, she drowned, and when she came to, her experiences, Mark, she saw everything that was happening. It's just a fascinating interview. I can't describe it until a person listens to it. It is so truthful and so from the heart. And she felt she met what she would call was God. And
yes.
Her question to God was, there are 6-7 billion people on this planet. How do you know me? And this entity said, I know everybody and everything about everybody. And she was in such a place, and she said, I'm going to miss my family. I can see those guys working on me over there, digging the front of the canoe, out of the kayak, out of the mud. I feel sorry for those guys, but I'm here. I do not want to go. And what she describes as God said, no, you've got to go back. You're not done. You've got kids. You've got things to do. She came back. She closed her eyes and was begging with what she calls God to not have to go back. She goes, I do not want to go back. I'm sorry. It's selfish. And at that point, started gacking up water and mud and dirt and stuff. And it brought me to tears listening to her. It still chokes me up today listening to this, because she said that where she was just unbelievable, and just felt this base of knowledge that she could tap into.
Yes.
But yeah.
My father's had 2 near-death experiences. Once when he was a teenager, he was in a terrible car accident. And he said, next thing he knew, he was hovering about 30 to 40 feet above, watching everybody around his body, pounding on his chest. And he said, wow, I'm dead. I feel great. And he said, a voice said, you have to go back. And then about probably 10 or 15 years later, he was a frogman. They used to call him frogman, then eventually it evolved into the Navy SEALs. And he was diving at about 100 feet deep. They were doing a deep water dive, and his regulator jammed, and he started to drown. And he said he went into the white light, and he said that he felt that feeling, and the same voice came back to him and said, I'm sorry, not I'm sorry, but it is not your time. You have to go back. And I've talked to a lot of people that have had those type of experiences. In my meditations, in what the near-death people, they're flung into this situation because of circumstances. And what I do when I connect with spirits, because I've had a lot of spirits that come across and tell me and the client that I'm communicating for what it was like to die and what it's like to go into the light. And they do describe what you and I would call God. Mm-hmm. And I've asked, I said, well, what is God? And the response was, you can't understand. And I'm like, yeah, well, that sounds like a cop-out. I mean, you got to tell me. And the best explanation, or rather, I don't want to say the best, but the one I can understand, is that God is every living thing, every being in creation is like a cell in the body of God, and we're all connected, and that God is a vast intelligence that transcends space and time, and it's because everything that is alive is interconnected energetically to God. That's how God knows who these 6 billion people on this planet are and who the 20 billion on the Klingon homeworld or
right.
whatever it is out there is, and so on and so forth. And for the first time, it made sense. And the notion of the Michelangelo god of the white hair, bearded gentleman sitting on a throne is medieval nonsense. And I said, well, is God male or female? And they said both and yet neither. And God God transcends gender. Well, I know that it gets a lot of people bent out of shape. Well, it says in the Bible, God is He. You think, yeah, well, that was written by a male-dominated society, written by men for men to keep men in power.
Right.
Okay, and certainly, in a male-dominated society, who is the king is God. And I'm not knocking necessarily those beliefs, because you and I, our brain cannot comprehend the concept of infinity. And that's because our eternal spirit is housed in our body. Think of our body as a bottle, and the brain is the cork, and the brain was specifically designed to be able to comprehend and experience a finite, limited material world existence. When we die, the cork dies. In other words, the brain dies, but the spirit does not, and we revert back to our infinite state. So that's why we have this limited material world existence, so that we can experience these things. So when you start looking at it on that perspective, that makes a whole lot more sense. So different cultures on planet Earth, in the Western culture, we depict God as a European king sitting on a throne, because we need to anthropomorphize the infinite. In other words, put a finite interpretation on an infinite concept, because you and I cannot comprehend infinity. So when we see Jesus or a friendly gentleman with white hair, and Hindus will see Vishnu or Shiva, and Shinto, Japanese people will see Japanese gods like Amaterasu, and Buddhists may see a representation of Buddha, and so on and so forth. We're all perceiving the same, or praying to or connecting with the same God, although our cultures, we create a finite means of understanding that. And that appears to be, based on my experiences and my research and what I have seen and the thousands of readings that I've done, the best way that I can explain this.
Here's a question that came in for you. This is in reference to the Catholic Church, and I'll just, and I know what the listener's getting at. Again, I think I was born and raised Catholic. I'm a Chicago native. My mom is an old world Italian woman. She goes to church, she's 91 years old. God bless her. She goes to church as much as she can. We talk about what we do. We talk about our program and what we do. And of course, she's one of them old time people. She has a little different view on things. But I think you so hit it on the head, and where people's human definition of God, like you said, the guy with in a robe with the long hair, with the beard, just as our human definition of religion, whether it is Catholic, whether it's Mormon, whether it's Judea, whatever it may be, these are the human descriptions or definitions that were attached to it. But here's the question for you. It says, Mark, what's your thoughts as to what the Catholic Church knows could be potentially hiding or manipulating as far as spirituality, or maybe like you mentioned a little bit before about the knowledge of an extraterrestrial presence. What's your take on that?
I think that things are changing, and I think Pope Francis is in the right place at the right time, and I think he is literally, in every sense of the word, a godsend. But traditional religions, and the question is in the context of Catholicism, but I'm going to extend that to pretty much all the religions, tend to use fear to get people to behave the way they want to. And that's not working anymore. People are getting bored of fear, and it's not working for them. And a lot of religions are afraid of this new consciousness and this new rise in spirituality, where people are saying, well, I don't necessarily need a dogma or a Bible or a scripture or a group of clerics to tell me how to connect God, because I can do a direct connect. Because most religions, be it Judaism or Islam or Christianity or Hinduism, they tend to say there is one and only way to God, and it's through us, our clerics, and our dogma. And if you don't do it the way we say, we're the one and only one, you're all bad and evil and terrible. Now, if the traditional religion works for you, brings you inner peace, and motivates you to do goodness to and for other people out of a sense of love, then you get it. If you're using your religion as a moral justification to feel superior to other people and to justify anger, bigotry, hatred, and violence, then you're not doing the work of God, you're doing the work of your own ego. And so traditional religions are in a panic state that, oh my gosh, maybe people won't need us. And I think that Pope Francis understands the modern world, and that the Catholic Church can adapt, can evolve, and can survive, and perhaps it should. But these religions that are rooted in medieval mythology, where God is going to fight the devil for all of eternity, and yet then God emerges victorious like a Viking warrior in some Nordic myth, I mean, really?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Well, and again, I think that sometimes, again, it's the human definition of what a religion is or the way it should be run. I have very good friends here in Salt Lake City who are heavy, devout LDS, parishioners, great people.
You mean priests? Not priests, but you mean what is it called? Bishops.
Well, no. I mean, I just have many people that I know. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, they all and that's the human side. Everybody puts that little bit different twist on. No, it should be this way. No, it should be that way. And it's just like going to church. They're going to that building on Sunday is not the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where people sometimes get caught up. They feel because they dedicate an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, their Sunday or their Saturday to something, going to a building. It's so much more than that. And I think that
didn't Jesus say the kingdom of God is within?
Exactly.
And, I think a lot of it is, I think what's sad is when people start getting really angry about it and they start to be really mean about it. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. They judge you so much about it. So.
Yeah. Here's another. Got a couple more questions that were sent in for you. It said, Mark, here's an interesting one. It said about a 4-year period where I was put in life and death situations, most of them car accidents, where people died in my arms or needed to be extracted. When there was a shift, when there was a shift where spirits need to be released, and I was the vessel for the release, then it stopped. Any thoughts on that, or just your interpretation of that?
Wow, what an incredible responsibility and gift for that person. Death is something which, if possible, should be approached with clarity, and to be the one to hold somebody as they make that transition is just amazing. And that very well may be one of the life purposes and objectives of the person asking the question. And then it stopped. Well, perhaps that phase of this person's life has ended and a new phase of spiritual development has begun. Because a lot of people think, well, what is my purpose? Well, we have several purposes. And, it's raising a child. Once the child becomes an adult, your purpose of being a caretaker of a child has ended, but that doesn't mean that your purpose as being a counselor and advisor to that person as an adult has ceased to exist. So that's what it looks like. This person has been given a beautiful gift, although I'll tell you what, not everybody could do it. And the fact that you were chosen to do this and have done it, God bless you.
Amen, brother. You want to take another call?
Sure.
Okay. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Mark Anthony.
Well, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right.
You have a question for Mark?
Yeah, I would like to know, I guess, if there's a spirit around me. Sure.
Oh, there's always
Uh-huh.
spirits around us. Let's see who it is. And well, actually, there's several spirits around you, and the first one stepping forward is an older woman. And what I'm getting with her is that she was smaller of stature. I would say she was probably around 5'4", 5'5". And what I'm getting is that she loved to go barefoot a lot. But also, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And sweet as can be. She had a really sweet disposition. And she was a very bright woman, but I'm getting like bright in the common sense as opposed to the book smart type of intelligence. And the thing is, one of the most frustrating things for her was prior to passing was the forgetfulness and the disruption in her thought processes. It appears that towards the end of her life, it was very difficult for her to concentrate and to focus. And she began to become very unsteady on her feet, and I'm feeling a lot of nausea with her, so there was difficulty with her eating prior to passing, and also it seems like stopped eating probably entirely in the last couple days of her life, and I'm feeling intense pressure and pain around my heart, but particularly with my lungs, as if one of her lungs had like filled up, either the stopped functioning or filled up with a fluid. Does any of this make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, in what way? Yes, for the benefit of the listeners.
It probably, more than likely it was my aunt.
Okay. Hold on.
But
When I take a deep breath like that, I'm centering and focusing myself. That's not a okay. Now I know everybody's aunt makes cookies, but I keep tasting cookie. Does cookies
No.
make sense with her?
not really with her.
I'm sorry?
Not with her. We had good, amazing family parties, but not cookie-wise.
All right, hold on. Do cookies make sense to you? Do you love them, hate them? Do they make sense to you in any shape, form, or fashion?
No, cookies make sense to me.
In what way?
Because I ate good cookies.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to speak up and speak more clearly because I'm having a very difficult time understanding you.
Sorry. I make cookies a lot.
Okay. The reason that that's significant, you make cookies a lot. When a spirit comes through, oftentimes they will bring up things about them, and they will also bring up things about you. Okay, so while your aunt did not necessarily make cookies, you do. She knows that. Okay? I don't know that. I don't know you from Adam, and she's talking about that. Okay, now, hold on.
Okay.
I keep getting green, the color green. Is color green significant to you in any shape, form, or fashion?
No.
What about with her?
No.
All right, before you jump on the no train, I want you to write that down and think about it, because a lot of things that happen in a reading make sense right away. What about a name like Green or Greenway? There's something green.
No, not at all.
Okay. No, she's not letting up on the green. I'm going to ask her to cool it with the green. That's probably something that's going to dawn on you later on, because that happens a lot. Now, let's get a message from her for you. Interesting. You're trying too hard. You're studying something, learning something. You're trying to change the direction of your life, and you're putting so much pressure on yourself that what happens is when you're in either a test situation or an interview situation, you're getting so nervous you're not thinking. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. So basically what she's telling you is to kind of lighten up a bit, realize that you know more than you think you do, and you need to have more confidence and faith in yourself. Also, faith is very important to you. That's why she's coming back with faith. Is she or are you Catholic?
No.
I can't understand you. You have to speak more clearly.
She said, oh, sorry.
No.
Okay. All right. What about faith? You having an issue with your faith?
No, I do not.
Do not what? Do not have an issue with your faith, or do not have a faith?
I don't have a faith.
Well, ergo, that is an issue with your faith. Okay? So that's why she's bringing that up. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm merely conveying the message. And she believes that you need to resolve that issue with your faith, and that will help give you the self-confidence and the inner peace that you need. So I'll leave that with you.
Okay.
All right.
Sound good?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. Thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, well, see, that was a good example, because like when I was talking about cookies, no, they make no sense. What it is, and the thing is, on these mini readings, when I do a reading with a client, I spend about 15 minutes ahead of time explaining certain things, because if they bring up something that doesn't make sense with them, it might make sense with you. Okay, because the caller, she bakes lots of cookies, so therefore cookies made sense. Also said, is there an issue with your faith? No. Okay, in what way? I have no faith. Well, there is an issue with your faith.
Yeah.
Okay, and the thing is, her aunt was not criticizing her; she was acknowledging this. And I don't know if the caller is having a crisis of faith, or is in search of a faith, or just doesn't believe in anything. But once that is resolved within that person, that will then lead her to the next level of spiritual development that her aunt was getting at. So a lot of times in a reading, people need to be open and listen to what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying when people just go, no. Like I was doing a reading about 2 weeks ago, and the image of a grapefruit came by. I was communicating with this woman's father. I said, do grapefruits make sense? No. Okay, somebody, no. I said, wait, well, he's not letting up on grapefruits. She goes, well, I hate grapefruits. I can't stand them. It's like, well, now, how is that not significant? You specifically hate the fruit grapefruit.
Yeah.
And once again, this is a phone reading. I've never met this person. Your father is acknowledging that. Well, he loved grapefruits. He ate them every day. It's like, well, wait a second. So this has significance on two different levels.
Right.
Do you know,
And then she started getting it, and then the reading started really kind of going from there.
what I was going to ask you is, why is it I my whole life I've wanted one person to come through, and they haven't. When I've had only a couple readings, I haven't had many, but it's weird when you. Is that common? Like some people want somebody to come through so bad, but they don't.
Yes, and the reason for that is, it's this. What happens is, I want, let's call Mary. I want Mary to come through.
Yeah.
Mary, come through. I want you to come. So what's happening is, energetically, you're putting this desire into it, which is the same type of thing as saying, I don't want. Okay? So basically you're setting up a deflector shield. What you have to do is reframe it to, Mary, I welcome you into this reading. I welcome you into my dreams. I invite you into my energy.
Okay.
Because then you're refocusing the angst from being this gimme,
okay.
to welcome.
So they're thinking you're being kind of pushy, and you're like, no, I'm just kidding.
It's not. It's not
I'm
not that
kidding.
they don't want to.
Yeah.
It's the energy that you're
submitting.
putting
Yeah,
out.
exactly. That makes sense.
Want to take another one, Mark?
Sure.
All right. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Mark Anthony.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I wanted. Is it me that's on?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're on. Go ahead.
Great. I wanted to possibly get a reading with my mother on the other side.
Okay, there's a woman coming through, and what I'm getting from her is a long, slow passing. Now, before we assume this is your mother, because this could be somebody else coming through first, let me describe her. The woman that I'm seeing, whenever I see a spirit who's projecting themselves wearing like a bathrobe, and I'm getting like this kind of soft pink. It's not fuzzy. It's a smoother type material, but anyway, it's like a pink beige type bathrobe. What that indicates to me is that the person was quite ill for some time prior to passing, and spent a lot of time either in bed or kind of confined at home or in a hospital. Does any of this make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And what I'm getting with her is I'm seeing a lot of blinking and a lot of squinting. Now, the natural reaction is, oh, that could be vision issues, but generally the squinting and the blinking indicates that there was difficulty with her maintaining lucidity and mental concentration prior to passing. This could be due to the ailment that she was suffering from, or this could even be due to medications. You know, like when you take painkillers, it makes it difficult to focus. I'm also getting pains in my fingers, which would indicate that she was having difficulty grasping things and manipulating things. And the pain that I'm feeling the most intense is in my left hand. Does any of this make sense?
Very possibly, yes.
Okay. Does she have, like, arthritis?
Runs in the family.
So that would be a yes. Okay. And J. Picking up on a J name, it may not be her. It could be somebody close to her. It's weird because I'm seeing an image of St. Jude. Being Catholic, I get a lot of saint-type images, but that could reference a name with a J.
It could be Jean. It could be James. It could be...
I'm sorry?
It could be James, several James, and it could be Jean.
Okay. Who's Jean?
Sister.
Okay.
Sibling sister.
Okay. All right. So her children have some J's. Okay. Hold on. And, all right, I'm being pulled right into the month of December. Now, granted, Christmas is a big deal for lots of people, but when I'm getting pulled into the month of December, that does not necessarily mean, hey, we like Christmas. It can be another significant event in the month of December. It could be a birthday, anniversary, another significant event. Does this make sense to you in any way?
She was Christmas family.
Okay, you're going to have to speak up a bit. I'm having difficulty
Christmas
hearing.
makes sense with family.
Okay. But is there another event in December other than just, hey, we like Christmas?
Not immediately coming to mind.
That's fine. Think about that. That may make sense later on. Hold on. She's talking about the way you breathe. I don't know if you're having difficulty breathing or you have an allergy or some type of obstruction, but there's something about that interferes with your ability to breathe. I'm also getting from her that there is, like, you know when people get panic attacks, they get that, like, fluttering sensation in their chest and their breathing becomes erratic. Does this make any sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And she's very well aware of this, and she says that you write a lot. You write a lot. And you spend long hours into the night in almost a solitary existence at time. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. This may be kind of your escape or your sanctuary. Does this make sense to you?
I can write at length.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I can write.
Okay. What about long hours into the night in a solitary existence when you do that?
Very much solitary, mostly listening to talk radio.
Okay. Hold on. Did she show me bow ties? That's interesting. Bow ties. Bow ties make sense to you in any shape, form, or fashion?
Not presently.
Okay. Is there someone close to you or here on the other side that used to wear a lot of bow ties?
Oh, possibly her father.
Okay. Her father did?
Yeah, her father, he's the only person I can connect with a bow tie.
Okay. Well, see, the things that come through are not random, and so when we get something like that, and if it's her father, then that would make sense, and that would also be her way of letting you know that, you know, he's over there with her. So let me see if I can get a message from her for you. You are always such a mournful child, and when I say mournful, it's M-O-U-R-N-F-U-L. Now, this is not a criticism or anything negative. What she says and what she is saying to me is that you are always the type of person that contemplates things. You're the type of child that used to feel sorry for other children. You were the type of person that never victimized other children, and it used to bother you. She says violence upsets you, and you don't like watching other people being victimized or preyed upon. And she saw this from you at a very early age. You have this tremendous sense of compassion. And that is one of the greatest gifts that you bring into the world, is this sense of being compassionate and sympathetic to the plight of others. She also is indicating that sometimes you get a little bit concerned that, well, why can't I do more for other people? And she says, don't worry about that. The fact that you are showing concern and compassion and generosity, you give of yourself, and she also says you are never one to spare someone who deserves it and needs it a compliment. Because by you acknowledging and complimenting people that no one else compliments, you are doing them a tremendous service. And she is incredibly impressed and proud of you.
Very true.
Very touching.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take one more, and then Carol's got a question for you, Mark.
If we have time.
If we have time. And thank you for being a good sport
Yes.
here with all these calls.
Oh, no problem. Well, I mean, I love what I do.
It's probably wearing you
And-
down a little bit. We don't want to.
Well, it's like a battery. It's like a battery, and it wears down, and it's more me. It is physically draining, and it has to be replenished. And I keep being told I need to take 2 days a week off, and I get 1 day a week, and half the time I'm running around fixing stuff at the house.
Let's take one more. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Mark Anthony.
Hey, I'll make this quick because I might be a little bit off your topic here, or out of your league, I suppose. I'm more interested in the safety of it and the things that have occurred during the last 2 weeks, like the bombings in North Korea and the declaration of war, in a sense, by China against America. And I've been following this for years and years. And so I might be your conduit to access some information here. And I'm wondering if you see anything of great significance with regard to war on our planet.
Well, when have we ever not had war?
Yeah.
The human condition, and you bring up some very good points. The problem is now we possess weapons of mass destruction. I remember reading about the Emperor Caligula, the insane Roman emperor, and he used to like watching people tortured while he was eating dinner. And
I agree that...
hold on. One time he said to a group of senators, when somebody had their head cut off, he goes, I wish Rome had just one neck. Okay? Except now we have just one neck. And if we get into a nuclear confrontation... Now, I don't think that the U.S., the Soviet Union, Russia, or China is necessarily going to start a nuclear war against each other, but I think that the big nuclear powers are going to be scrambling to keep other countries with nuclear powers from using theirs.
Well,
when you get Iran threatening Israel, that we're going to wipe you off the map, and you get Pakistan that has nuclear weapons threatening India, and you get some of these radical groups getting hold of them. This could be very, very devastating. But the thing is, I tend to think that despite all of that, I think that in the end, as Gandhi said, there have always been tyrants and murderers, but in the end, they fall in the way of love and light prevail, and I tend to believe that.
Well, I'm glad for you. You have peace in your heart then.
I try. Well, it's funny. One of my favorite priests, at the end of the service, he goes, and now everyone go in peace. And remember, the person in the car in front of you is not your enemy.
I'm not your enemy either. I don't want to disrupt your inner peace. But I am personally getting some very strong negative sensation when it comes to the planet. And, to humankind in actuality is the danger to, like you were talking about the sword, they used swords. Well, they will revert back to using the sword and the guillotine, in any case, and forget about the nuclear threat. Excuse me. I believe it will revert back to the darker days of the guillotine and then the axe, for that matter.
Well, let's pray that it doesn't.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
All
right.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, we've got. Go ahead, Carol. Carol you had a question for Mark. Go ahead.
I'm just saying I've had a lot of people pass away, and I just wondered if maybe you could pick up on me. So since I have you on the line,
you're springing this on me at the end of the show.
Sorry. Hey, last time I didn't get a chance, so it's okay.
How about next time I'm on, I do a reading for you?
Okay.
That sounds wonderful. And you've been a sport tonight.
Where can people get your book, Mark? Where can they get that at and get in touch with you?
Never Letting Go is a guide on the journey through grief, and it's for anyone who's lost a loved one. It's on sale worldwide in every country that speaks English. It's at all Barnes & Nobles. It is at all fine bookstores. You can buy it on Amazon.com. If you go to my website, neverlettinggo.com, you can order it. It's funny because I always get emails from people who say, well, I went to Barnes & Noble and I couldn't find your book. It's like, well, then go to the customer service desk and they'll order it for you. Okay, and I don't mean to sound facetious, but it's like people send me emails, well, it wasn't at my Barnes & Noble in Wichita, Kansas. It's like, yeah, but I know they have a customer service desk. And the thing is, my book's even on sale. It's on sale in the U.S., U.K., Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, India, Malaysia, every country that speaks English, and it's also been translated into Slovak. So it is on sale in the Slovak Republic. And the thing about Never Letting Go is it's not just a guide on the journey through grief. It will teach you how to recognize when your loved ones are in spirit. It is healing with messages of love and hope from the other side. And it's for anyone who likes a good page-turner and some good edgy crime stories, too, because I am an attorney, and I take my material world experience as an attorney, and I bridge the gap between the metaphysical and the real world. And that's what sets me apart from a lot of the other psychics and mediums. I don't deal with the airy-fairy, boom and berry. I mean, to me, it's evidence, it's facts, and it's healing. That's what it's all about.
Sounds like a great book.
That's what makes you you. One last question from a listener, and then we'll let you go. And I want to thank you for staying the full 2 hours. I know you got a Saturday night and need to take it easy.
And you have a life, too.
You do.
Occasionally.
Yeah, we do, too. We do this 6 nights a week. I think we need a life. But no, we feel
and you love it. It's funny because, never mind. Anyway, your question.
Question that comes from a listener says, does Mark feel that you only have one soul, no matter how many lives one person may have?
Yep, one soul per customer. Yet we're multidimensional beings, and God, if we had about another 20 minutes, I could explain that one. Yes. You have one soul.
We're going to have to get you back on, for sure.
We are. Now, you're working on another book now, currently, correct?
My other book.
Now you sound like me. I'm rubbing off on you.
I was like, him say other book. My other book has been written. My publisher is in the process of going through what they go through, and it will be on sale worldwide on March 2015.
Cool.
I wanted it out sooner, so if anyone wants my book out sooner, send an email to publicity@llewellyn.com.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'm serious about that. Feel free to complain, because the thing is, there's people all over the world asking for this book, and for whatever reason, the publisher has their reasons, and the thing is, it could be out this year. But all things being equal, it will be a book that explains how spirit communication works. It will combine science, theoretical physics, theology, and evidential mediumship to explain how this works. And like Never Letting Go, it will be based on stories from real readings about real people. And it's going to touch some very, very edgy topics, like Never Letting Go does. Never Letting Go is for anyone who's lost a loved one, and it's for all people of all faiths. And it's been a number one bestseller on Amazon's New Age list over 5 times, and it's, like I said, it's on sale worldwide.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sounds
and the
very
website
good.
is.
And yeah, your website one more time.
NeverLettingGo.com.
Sounds great.
Yes.
Mark, thank you so much for being here tonight. It was an honor, and let's you're a busy guy.
Yes.
But let's get you back on again down the road.
Sounds great. I look forward to coming back. I always have fun on your show, and you've got great callers and great listeners. And to everybody, happy Passover.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming up this week, and happy Easter. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday, and to all people of all faiths, may God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mark. Have a good night. Take care and be well.
Take care.
Thank you.
God
Take
bless.
care. God bless.